And we are seeing on top of this breaking news for you. This is happening in the Antioch, Nolensville area. You can see fire crews have really gotten a handle on this fire right there at Stonebrook Boulevard and Oak Creek. A lot of smoke right there right now.
And we're still waiting to hear from crews on the scene, and there are 3 different community units that have come in to help get this fire put out, get it under control. We still don't know though yet about the homeowners. Sky 5 did have some pictures a few minutes ago of some folks sitting outside at another home. We don't know yet though if those were the homeowners, if anybody's hurt at all. We're hoping and praying that everybody got out okay.
You can see neighbors gathering right there just looking at the fire across the street. You know, it was so hot and those flames were so big. The siding on some of those neighboring homes is damaged, and you know, those fire crews are working hard, so we're just lucky at this point that the fire did not jump to any of the other homes. Look at that siding right there on the side of that home, just buckled and melted off because it was so hot due to those flames.
All right, we'll continue to watch this. Blake Rosnowski getting information right now from authorities. She is there at this house fire. We're going to check in with her in just a few minutes. But you know, that wasn't the only fire that we've been talking about this morning. In fact, crews are still fighting a condo fire in the South Nashville area right now. Thankfully, no one was hurt, but the damage is another story entirely. Several families were displaced in this fire, and you can see these homes are just gutted. Look down there. The roof is completely gone. A lot of damage. Still no word on how this thing started, but fire investigators are working to figure out what started the fire. Thankfully, though, no one was hurt. A deadly crash shut down the interstate in both directions for hours overnight. The crash happened on I-440 near the 65 interchange. Officers say the driver was heading west, crossed over the median, and crashed into the guardrail in the eastbound lanes. I-440 west is back open now after being shut down for nearly 5 hours. Investigators say the driver was the only person in the vehicle. He died at the scene. Breaking news overnight, a police chase ends in gunfire. Right now, the TBI is looking into an officer-involved shooting right here in Middle Tennessee. Portland police say last night they tried to stop a car. As the man and woman tried to get away, they got into a crash on Denningford Road in Sumner County. Officers say the man tried to run and was shot by an officer. We don't know the condition right now. Of course, we will update you as we get new information. A man stumbles to a home on Ashton Avenue in Bordeaux and tells the homeowner he's been shot. Imagine opening up the door to that situation. Police say when it was called in around 2:30 this morning, officers say that victim was transported to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. They say the victim isn't cooperating with their investigation so far this morning. The voters have spoken. Mayor David Briley will stick around as the city's leader until at least next August. News Channel 5 Sophie Nielsen holding live this morning with more information for us. So Sophie, Briley had a pretty commanding lead in this race.
He did, more than 55%, but that only means he gets to hold on to the office in the building behind me for another 15 months because he's technically finishing out former Mayor Megan Barry's term. He'd be up for election again in August of 2019. Now, David Briley last night acknowledged that he has inherited an office that is still healing from scandal. Last night's special election happened because the resignation of former Mayor Megan Barry in March left a void. She resigned following a guilty plea on felony theft charges related to an affair with her police bodyguard. Now, Briley, who was then vice mayor, was then sworn in as acting mayor, and so he was the incumbent in last night's election. He fought off 12 other candidates last night, and even though there was low voter turnout, Briley's campaign was able to mobilize their base for a win.
We went through a tough period of time, but we all came together and we decided not to give up, but to keep moving forward.
Now, because of his commanding win last night, his lead that led to his 55% of the vote, this means that we are going to avoid a runoff in the mayoral election, and that will save taxpayers $1 million. Live at City Hall, Sophie Nielsen, News Channel 5.
Former Vanderbilt Professor Carol Swains hoped to get the support of conservatives in Nashville to try to avoid the runoff next month, try to have that runoff next month to get into office. She failed in that, though. In her concession speech, she said she doesn't know yet if she's going to run for mayor next year, but she says she will be watching what Mayor Briley does.
Those of you who know me, you know I've always said that the call on my life was to hold politicians accountable and not to be one. And maybe that's right, because I intend to hold Mayor Briley and the City Council accountable.
Now, Swains says her team was at a disadvantage because of the short length of the campaign and the fact that she was majorly outspent by Briley.
At Mayor Briley's watch party, our Chris Conti caught up with former Nashville Mayor Bill Purcell. He believes last night's numbers are proof that Nashvillians are united in the desire to keep moving forward.
And he was clearly ready. He stepped right in. The great part about this, and the election may prove this, the city pulled together. The city really didn't miss a beat, and they stood up, and now they've voted. And hopefully, this will be a moment when we can turn our attention back to the future.
This election outcome came down to voter turnout. Nashville Election Commission tells us about 85,000 people voted. Getting a little more than 4% was candidate Jeff Carr. And at his watch party, he thanked his family and campaign team for their patience and endurance the past 3 weeks. Carr is an activist and pastor. He opposed the transit referendum and was committed to tackling youth violence. Last night, he congratulated Mayor David Briley on his win.
The people of Nashville have been hungry to make sure that we had a mayor that is elected and not just selected by a process. So tonight was a wonderful exercise in democracy, and I'm absolutely elated that they pushed a political unknown from the bottom of the heap to near the top of the echelon with 22 days and no political machine.
Carr says it is possible he may run again, but right now he says he plans to spend time with his family.
Also on the ballot, the vacant seat in Metro Council District 1. That seat became available when Nick Leonardo was appointed to the General Sessions judge seat. Right now, it looks like Judy Cummings and Jonathan Hall will face off in a runoff election. So mark your calendar for 5 weeks from now. That election is set for June 28th.
And Metro Council members are looking for money to pay teachers who work with Metro School's most vulnerable students. They're called paraprofessionals, and even though they're not technically certified, they work one-on-one with special needs children. They're also subject to a $1.3 million budget cut because Metro Nashville Public Schools didn't receive the amount of money it asked for in this year's budget.
Our children are the most vulnerable. They need one-on-one time. They're usually behind in their skills. They're not on grade level. And when you have a paraprofessional providing one-on-one education, that helps to close the gap, the educational gap, to make sure that they are up to speed with their peers.
Council members are trying to come up with more money for Metro schools, but say it will have to come at the expense of other departments' budgets.
Are we just going to keep talking like Honey didn't have flowers in her hair? I
know.
love that. Those are beautiful.
I know. It's
and I love her name, Honey.
Very 70s-ish. All right. Well, it's finally here. The unofficial start to summer.
Now, this is Memorial Day weekend, and the TWRA wants you to stay safe when you hit the water with friends and family. Now, during last year's holiday weekend, the agency says there were no boating-related deaths. That is fantastic. We want to keep that up this year. They want to keep it that way, keep the streak going. Along with the use of life jackets, the TWRA says you should be responsible drinking alcohol while you're on a boat. Check your boat before you head out on the lake or the river. Make sure you have a fire extinguisher on board. Make sure you have plenty of gas if you need that. And just, you can get a boating while under the influence, so be aware.